This is called Casket Treasures by Ryan Nelson. The last time I told this story was in an elementary school. I was speaking at an event for sick children that couldn't read, and I had a few drinks beforehand to calm my nerves. I was also jet-lagged and going through a serious bout of botulism, my second to date, from a rusted can of Franks and beans. Needless to say, I was in a place to open up. I was demonstrating reading things when a memory burst into my mind. I stopped talking and placed the book on the podium. The room got quiet, and I asked for the lights to be dimmed. I robbed my grandfather's grave 32 times during the summer of 2000, I told them all. A small, gentle, rolling applause erupted from the back of the room. By the end, I'd have them all applauding. I just knew it. So I took a deep breath and continued. Yeah, you see, my grandfather, well, he was a mystery to me. Growing up, I knew very little, and what I finally did find out that bore any importance was way after his passing. I would often ask Mama about him. Was he a cobbler, a farmer, an old-time candy maker? He was an old-fashioned grandfather man, she would tell me. That's all you need to know. He had a hat that smelled like closet, and his cane handle was always wet. He was buried the way he was born, in the wild. An area that we called Martin's Forest on the outskirts of town. There was no marker, no way to find him, unless you had the map. And only one copy existed, which lived in Mama's memory box. One Friday night when I was 13, she went out with her friends and let me stay home alone. My friend little Danny came over and wanted to play soldiers. I remember being embarrassed that I didn't own any soldier stuff. No uniform, no medals, no hat. Did Grandpa? Was it possible he was a soldier and I didn't know it? Moments later, I found myself fingering through the memory box, looking for the map. I pulled out a white piece of parchment paper, tea-stained and burned to look like it was from colonial times. The map! I grabbed little Danny by his dumb little hand. He'd accidentally slammed it in his parents' car door so many times it always pulsated and looked so frail and fucking done. We set off for Martin's Forest. It took us 2 hours, even with the shortcuts. We followed the directions very carefully and finally came upon the bulge in the ground. It was the casket. We started digging. Moments later, we hit the lid with our shovels. Clank! He was buried only inches below the soil. Probably the way he wanted it. I cracked the lid open and peered in. He was a mystery man. It had been a while, so no flesh remained. Just bone and hair and gristle. It smelled of an old auto shop and a hamburger stand. I reached in and pulled something out. It was heavy and had the words War Medal engraved on it. It was a medal. Probably from the war. We grabbed it along with the hat and musket that lay next to it. He was a soldier! We replaced the lid, covered the casket slightly with soil, and made our way to the road. Little Danny was a Russian spy, and I was a German SS hero. We took turns leading the way with the musket in the warm summer night. Little Danny became addicted to visiting Grandpa's casket that summer, and honestly, so did I. We memorized the map and went every Saturday. One weekend we played bakery. The casket was fully stocked, even with flour and a chef's hat. He had stuff to play every game, his secret casket treasures. He was a man of all trades, war hero turned baker turned baseball player, even mobster. I was so intrigued and excited about him. I made a necklace of his bones and teeth. I never had a dad. He would have been a cool dad. So many stories of adventures to share. One weekend, I couldn't take it anymore. I wanted Mama to tell me all about him, so I pushed and pushed and pushed. She took a moment with her thoughts, grabbed an original Formula Sparks, which she called her Vintner's Reserve, from the fridge and sat me down. She cracked the can open and took a sip. I could smell it from across the table. I couldn't wait to turn 14 so I could finally taste that Sparks. That was Mama's rule, and after all, she was the boss. After a few sips, I could tell the Sparks was kicking in. She lit a cigarette. I told her to tell me all about the war and his job as a baker and politician, what years he was a scientist and a doctor. How did he have the time for all of it? Don't leave anything out, I told her. Tell me everything. She looked at me for a minute, confused. Then after what seemed like an eternity, she opened her mouth. Honey, your grandfather wasn't any of those things. Of course she was lying. I mean, she must be. I had proof. Honey, he wasn't any of those things. I'm so sorry to disappoint. Well, then what was he? I asked her. He was a prop master of a local theater, but only for a few weeks. The rest of his life he kind of, well, just did nothing. My heart broke into a million pieces. My grandfather was a fake. I didn't have a dad, and my mom was drunk all the time. What a shit fucking life, I thought. Shit fucking life. I never told little Danny. He didn't have a dad either, and he would snuggle with Grandpa in his casket and call him Dad. I didn't have the heart to tell him. My mom saw I was broken and decided to take me to Six Flags and Cracker Barrel the following day to end the summer right. That morning, I was eagerly waiting by the car, so excited to go. She eventually came out and said, "We're not going." School started the next day. Kids, make reading important. Learn to read, even if you're sick. It's great. The entire audience erupted with applause as the lights slowly started coming up. Someone turned on George Michael's father figure, and I danced my way to the auditorium door. I did it, I thought to myself. I did it just like I knew I would. Casket Treasures, and by Ryan Nilsson.